What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Zero Access Footy Podcast. We are here. It's episode number 18. We are officially 4.5 months in. This is like rehab.
We're legal.
No, that is an awful way of putting it. We are just here to talk about the football, nothing like that. That was an awful way of putting it. But we are here once again to have, I think, a positive chat on both of our ends right now. I think both of our sides, at least, are feeling good about the direction of our club and the way things are going, despite results. But at the same time, I think you've mentioned to me before plenty of times how you feel about where you want your club to go. But we've got plenty to talk about as per usual. Round 15, we're going to chat about that. Obviously, we're going to have a look at some of the interesting stories of the week, including a loser to my fantastic boys, my fantastic team who are winning a premiership within the next 5 years. It's going to be good. It's going to be a great time.
Jeez, put them on there.
I know, that's going to be really, hopefully everyone will have forgotten about this clip by that time. But plenty of topics that have popped up throughout the week, and we'll start off, however, with looking at the matchups and how the games went for round 15. So first off, we started the week in a game that looked pretty meh to start, but ended up being a decent contest from a depleted Essendon side. For the Dockers, however, we've definitely gotten to the point where we know for sure Luke Jackson is the one. He needs to be the one and only. We've said it plenty of times before, but this game was just another one that certified it. 3 goals, plenty of disposals.
21 touches, I think.
48 hit-outs as well. He can do it all. He really can. When people say he's a unicorn, he is a true unicorn. That man does really, really well. So it's about time we got to this point, and I'll talk more about it when we get to round 16 and how we look at that. But the trade value of Sean Darcy, that one is one that I want to talk about today.
I will for sure be having a few trades for him by the end of the season. You can guarantee that.
Oh yeah, the trade segments are going to be massive.
It's going to be prime
during
time.
the end of the season once they really start racking up and the trade talk really heats up.
Yeah.
But there's more than just Luke Jackson on that field. Do you want to talk about any others out there that impressed you?
Shea Bolton was very, very close to having like a great game. Had 5 times where had he just given a handball, had goal assist, took 1 too many steps and got tackled, and was so close at every stage. Still had a good game. Yeah, very much almost game, which was more so what we saw from the start of the year. But he is looking to be a real game breaker. But I'm going to be interested to see with Bolton sort of playing that mid-forward role, which is what Hayden Young turned into. If Hayden Young does return by season's end, does he go off to half-back again? Because we saw how good he was doing that role a couple years ago. Great kick, great runner. He's able to win the ball himself, able to defend as well. Do they need that second option alongside Jordan Clark, or do they want to just go pure midfield ability where they have so much talent in there it's not even funny?
I was going to say, it feels like they could really almost experiment with him when he does eventually come back. But like I mentioned, the Bombers aren't all negatives realistically, both in and out of the game at the moment. So in the game, Nate Caddy, he seems like one of the future's brightest stars in the fact that he makes so much happen when he does get the ball in his hands. The problem is it just doesn't get down there. I believe he is, or Essendon in general, are 17th when it comes to inside 50 targets. So
that's bad.
Nate Caddy doesn't get all that much.
Wonder what would happen if you put Nick Martin and Zach Merritt in your midfield instead of Jai Caldwell and Will Setterfield.
Well, Merritt has been one to kind of talk about on the negative side. He's been having a few off games as of recent. But
he's been played out of position. Not much you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Nate Caddy also looked really good, I thought. Had a couple great kicks inside 50, picked the ball up cleanly.
Nate Caddy entering inside 50 rather than being the inside 50 target.
Yeah, okay. He's getting up the ground and looking really good.
Yeah.
Friday night, we had this as the best game of the week. Was close. Wasn't quite there.
Look, I think there was a standout.
It felt closer than what it was on the scoreboard.
Yes, in a sense. I think I was surprised to see Brisbane kick away. And a lot of people let me know that Cats winning by 40 was just such a miraculously bad decision or bad prediction. But
got it wrong by 81 points.
Yeah, but it's not even just that. It's the fact that Geelong didn't even come close to the class I thought they'd bring. Like, Myers had such a rare, poor kicking efficiency game. He got Bronx cheers when he did kick an on-target possession.
That's bad.
That is so rare. And he's the last person I thought that would happen to. Because Myers has just been so good for so long in terms of his kicking ability. To see that happen, I'm like, wow, this is just really a bad night. And I really wish that they had won this purely for the fact that I liked the idea of the whole, white out shirts, whether it's like say, for example, Essendon, when they're good enough, they did a whole red out and the entire stadium filled with red and black even. That'd be sick. It's a good idea. But now this is going to be connotated to it forever, and I don't like it. I wish they had made it at least enjoyable.
It got to Bailey Smith a little bit, I think. In the end, they just had a bit of concern with him getting the ball. Like, Dangerfield as well had to be moved in there at times because they just weren't able to win it.
It's so strange that they had midfield issues when their midfield has been arguably some of the best in the comp at the moment. You see, obviously, against Essendon, they had Smith with the 40+. Holmes had a fantastic game, and you felt their midfield was some of the best talent you've seen, and they're playing so well. And then this game, just so opposite to what I expected. And we both predicted, you predicted the Lions win, but a close Lions win.
Yes, I did. I had a very high-scoring game. Had Brisbane, Geelong kicked accurately. Could have seen that. But as I said, vibe win. After you did it last week, I had to do it this week, and it worked.
We were 2 for 2 now combined in terms of vibe picks. When you know something's up, you know it happens.
Yeah.
We'll move to Blues Roos.
I just want to touch on. I had Cam Rayner having a really good game. He just did not allow Geelong to get near it at times.
3 goals too as well. Fantastic.
Almost 20 touches. He
did break out and he had a big game as you had predicted. So good on you.
I'm a genius.
It was all you, that one. It was definitely not me. However, I'm going to take my happiness with the next one. Saturday, 1:20. North should have won by a lot more. But as I've said over and over again, a win is a win is a win. They take on Carlton and pick up their second win at the MCG this year. The first time they've won at the MCG, I think it was since 2017, was the Richmond game. And now we've done it 2 years in a row.
2017, Richmond were premiers as well. That's crazy.
No, it wasn't against Richmond, as in we did it in 2017. Richmond was the team we beat this year at the MCG to get that. So that's the last time we did it. And just, I can't believe that we're at the point now where 7 wins could be possible. A lot of people have brought up the fact that if it wasn't for the 6-point loss to Freo, the draw to Brisbane, the 9-point loss to Port, like those close games that were in the reach, if they had just swung the other way, they're knocking on the door of finals. Just think about how dumb that is.
Yeah, well, you did have them finishing 10th, so it's not too far off if you.
I can't believe that is kind of like slowly coming back. But if we look at their future, 7+ could happen. They've got some winnables. These Saints and Tigers are the winnables. Yeah. Everything else seems a bit meh. So Hawthorn's coming up, and you got Dogs, then you got Swans, who you could say they could win if it wasn't for the fact that all their players are coming back now. So I don't think they'll get that one, and they lost to them even without all those players. So Swans, despite it on paper looking winnable, they've got the players to beat them. To beat the Roos. But the Blues is the biggest. The Blues are going to be the biggest talking point.
Michael Voss is probably the number 1 man under pressure at the moment.
Yeah.
He sprayed them at 3/4 time, and they did have a response, but at the same time, like,
you shouldn't be needing to respond to a team in the bottom 3 that hard. Like
unless it's a young team where you sort of know that there's inexperience, they're a very inexperienced team. You look at like all the players out there, Cripps, Wiedering, McGovern, they've all had over 200 games experience minimum.
And we'll talk more about the Blues, I think, in a future segment because we've got plenty to talk about.
We'll keep it short.
Power
bye TDK.
Bye TDK. Yeah, that's a good shout. Power versus the Swans. This one, super inaccurate not super from the Powers point of view. I believe it was just the Swans who probably should have won this by a lot more. Amadi's 0 goals, 6 behind, and I think 2 misses.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but I saw on Champion Data -15 rating.
Oh my God.
Ridiculous.
Hey, you put them all together, he at least kicked a goal. So, you got to take your positives somewhere. But
yeah, sure.
A win that, probably gives them a lot more hope than I think a lot of people imagine. A lot more people are seeing this now as Swans have kind of revitalised or have a chance to revitalise their season now.
It was always dependent on how Goulden and Papley or when Goulden and Papley would return.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to happen as soon as they got back. Like, you had Port winning. I just didn't believe in them because it's Port. And
I just said at Adelaide Oval they should be able to show up, and they didn't.
Not at all.
It's just been the story of Port.
Correct. And this is
Rosie and Butters are probably the only ones you could say that properly showed up. And funny enough, the little story in between of Miles Bergman walking up to Isaac Heaney on a tag, telling him that he's feeling crook. It's like, probably not the brightest
Yeah,
thing to do.
I think it's pretty cool staying at Port Adelaide. Might as well come to the Saints.
Are you trying to get every single potential out of contract player to come to the Saints? Is that your role here at Zero Access Footy?
Yes.
To be the kind of rumor churner, the one that spits out hot takes of people always going to the Saints.
It's not even a hot take anymore. It's just facts.
Oh my God, you are unbearable.
Oh well.
Not much more to talk about there, though. I think Power close to done and Swans
revitalising
a little bit back.
Could make a push for finals. They very well could.
Very good. Pies versus Saints. I meant to say could as well. That was dumb. Pies versus Saints. I've just written here, battling through adversity just seems to be another skill on their belt. Like, they've got so many ways, Collingwood, of being able to beat teams, and even a fight back or a really good challenge from a team who you don't expect it from. They just know how to do that as well.
Yeah.
It's like their professionalism and their experience always gets over the top. You've got your younger guys who aren't quite there yet, so your Ed Allens and those types of players. Your O'Sullivan.
Lockie Sullivan.
Lockie Sullivan. I believe he came on as a
sub for Macca in
the
first quarter. Yeah.
So those younger guys who are trying to get involved and keep that pressure up and keep that, I guess, skill at that high level that Collingwood seems to play every single time for 4 quarters. Everyone else, your Pendles, side bottom, Daicos, who got a lot of talk. And then
there was so much overblown for that tag. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you'll have your moment to scream about that. You know what? I'll let you go for it. What do you think about that one?
Much better performance. I'll certainly give that. I thought we were in it for 3.5 quarters. We were within 10 points with 14 minutes left in the 4th quarter. No issues with that. And then if they get 4 goals to close the game, no issues. Again, that's what the performances I want to see. Show that we're good enough to keep up with them for enough of the game to the point where players will be really intrigued, but keep losing so we get a really good pick and get even more top-end talent.
And that's why I said, I think at the start, we're both feeling good about each other's results because despite the loss, you showed a lot of good signs. Finally, Toru getting his game, and he looked solid for us. He got some really, really good touches. He's played his role really well. The obvious first game nerves that you get, a few kicks that sprayed a bit wide, I'm not mad at that performance. He did really well.
Yeah, I was surprised he went to Myercheck. I thought he would have gone to Memory because he's not as big as someone and physical enough to go with Myercheck.
And just maybe gets a quick hit on him as he goes
through.
He
did really well. So good on him.
Yeah.
Wore the Viking helmets. So that was fun.
I did see the Viking helmets. Your little call out on Saints Nation that worked out quite well for you.
Also noticed how they were all the exact same helmets that I had. So clearly everyone went to Spotlight.
Shut up. Are you trying to really are you trying to cop the trend? Are you trying to be the one who says I made the trend?
I did. It was last. Carlton came out this week. I did it last week. Okay. I started this trend.
Bro, the world doesn't revolve around you. No. You know what? I'm not giving you any more time. That's all you get. Giants versus Suns. This ended up being the game of the week to me.
Really weird game.
Oh, my God.
Gold Coast started like a house on fire.
I want to start with the Suns first because, there's a lot of anger within me for this team because I just want them to make the finals. They need to, for the sake of their club. For the sake of the fans that show out to their games still and the ones who have the hope. Even
Which
just
ones?
the non-fans.
Who shows up?
Not many.
Yeah.
But even the ones who are just neutral, celebrating on the sidelines to see a team finally get some success, they just can't ever seem to hold on. There's like this one moment in their head every time where it looks like, they just don't look like they've got it yet. Every time. Every single time. And it frustrates the hell out of me. I went a bit overboard and said if they don't make finals this season, they should have their license revoked. But
well, it had opened the door for a Tassie team to be the 18th team and make it a more fair competition. So
maybe.
Who knows? Who knows?
But realistically, their draw is still very good. There's still a game in hand.
Still got 2 games against Essendon. They got 2 games against Essendon.
But the problem is all the teams around them are also in some decent form.
That one game, it puts them up to, I believe, 5th based off of percentage. So there's a lot of leeway in that. And that's the only issue. If they don't get one of those wins against Essendon, there's every chance they don't make finals.
Yeah. And then on the Giants end, I've just said they're really confusing.
Always will be.
So many games they should have won that they didn't. And now they're on 2 really good wins. So one against Brisbane, one against Gold Coast. Take out both the Queensland sides. That's a fantastic, fantastic couple of games there. And spearheaded surprisingly by Cadman.
He's been great.
Hogan's been good too, and Green really chipped in this one as well. Both the Greens.
I thought the game breaker, though, was Jake Stringer.
Jake Stringer,
2 goals
absolutely.
from the boundary.
Yeah.
2 goals from the boundary in the last quarter. Just took it away from Gold
For
Coast.
sure. But like I said, just it felt more like a well-rounded finish that I didn't see the Giants having in them. I really didn't see it. It just goes to show how unpredictable that team is. So if they make finals, they're a team you do not want to match up against.
Definitely.
And then Dogs, Tigers, there's really not much to mention here. Just
typical.
the usual, the domination I think we all expected, 80 plus.
Bailey Dale did not get the 25 touches I needed.
Oh, your multi didn't work out well, did it? That's a shame.
Screw you, Bailey.
Yeah, send him an angry message. I don't know.
Anyway,
but we'll move on to Macca's Man of the Week.
Yeah.
This one has been changed around a fair bit over the last couple of days because sick edit job, mate. That's good. I like that. That's nice. You're really up in your game, producer. That's good. We've got Macca's Man of the Week, and I'll start off with the one vote. Originally, I was planning to give this to Sam Davidson. I think he really played a crucial role in a game where everyone was firing, but I realised, as well as he played, Tom Green is probably the one deserving at least a vote. Despite not him having a fantastic game all around, he absolutely stood up when it mattered the most.
16 clearances.
A huge win and a huge game and a huge quarter, really. That last quarter from all of the Giants players, but probably headlined by Tom Green for the Giants in that one. You could say Stringer with his fantastic final quarter performance, but Tom Green playing the whole game out, that double fake out goal was awesome. I love those types of goals where he fakes the kick, goes right past them, does it again. It's like, how do you fall for it twice? It's so good. So he gets one vote. Second, in the losing side, is Noah Anderson. He was one that did so well, and plenty of people have told me that Gold Coast deserved to win that game. They were the better team on the day.
Yeah,
obviously, the result says otherwise, and they don't get the 4 points. But Noah Anderson, the 42 disposals, crazy work all around the ground, and just wasn't rewarded for it. And that's what I hate the most about it. But he was by far the best player on the ground in that game.
Yeah.
And then finally, 3 votes. I gave him to Luke Jackson. I think his fantastic game, despite them not having the greatest competition in this one.
Vigo Vicentini.
Yeah, just not being the greatest competition. At the very least, it was good to see Luke Jackson really show why he is the one to look when it comes to the Freo ruck situation. So, those are my 3. And then, Macca's Donkey of the Week. What does it look like? There's just more and more on top. Oh my God, this is good. I like this. I like the editing job that
it's very good.
That producer Ethan has put in this way. But I think a lot of people are going to agree with it at this point. I hate to go the easy one, but Carlton, just as a general, the whole club, lots of questions.
Yeah.
You could say Voss, but I don't think it comes down to Voss. It just came down to the whole club. And you could say that Voss was actually the one who probably turned around in the last quarter. And that's why I'm not one who wants to call for his head just yet. I just want there to be some change, there to be some legitimate, revitalization, some almost restructuring within the club. The skills are just poor. It was another one of those games where it's like, where did your skills go? Same feeling I had with round 1 for Carlton. So, obvious one, runners up probably Geelong. Just a very outlandish game from Geelong, but it was nowhere near as bad as I think this Carlton game was.
And then the 1 vote goes to Rowan Marshall by himself.
What?
Yeah. 3-2-1. 3 votes Carlton, 2 votes Geelong, 1 vote Rowan Marshall.
Oh, okay. You're gonna add into the. All right. Yeah. I was gonna just do the 1 because I didn't want to make fun of that many people. But all right.
We make fun of people.
Sure. I forgot who I'm dealing with here. This man does not like anybody. But that is our round 15 review. Now, Behm, there seems to be a clear look as to what the top half of the competition is looking like now. So give me your rundown.
It appears there is some fucking separation, which is not good because we want an even competition. And as much as it pains me to say, St Kilda cannot make finals. But that's okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't that what you wanted?
Yes. Collingwood have pretty much solidified themselves as the top dog at the moment. Brisbane, Geelong are pretty similar teams at the moment. I'd say Brisbane have been a bit more inconsistent, but Geelong have had the better games overall. Adelaide are looking really, really promising all year. Hawthorn as well, also inconsistent, which is surprising given the talent they brought in last year.
Yep.
Fremantle, super talented team, starting to figure things out now. Are they going to start peaking too early? Because do you want to do it now or do you want to do it at the start of round 20? My only concern. GWS, what?
We don't know.
Yeah, we really don't know.
How do you go explaining a season like this for GWS? Look, the positive, they're in the 8. They look pretty good right now.
Bulldogs, 3rd best percentage, and they're sitting 8th.
It really just gives them a good,
leap pad.
it gives them a good hand in the sense that if it comes down to who has the highest percentage, whether they tie with wins, they've got the box office seat. They've got the driver's seat. Outside of Adelaide, who may be one. I think Collingwood is too far ahead at this point for the Dogs to catch up, but Adelaide is one that could probably stop them from getting any higher. But they're only within 2 percentage points.
The only concern I have is because it's the bye round, we've got no idea how it's going to look like until after next week.
Yeah.
So Collingwood could be 10 points clear of second, which would be a huge gap. And then we could only have 4 points between second and 8th. Or second and that's a huge gap that you just can't predict. So that's the only thing. But the only thing is, how much does this impact the second half of the season? Because if we've got a 2-game gap now between 9th and 10th is Carlton, who had just lost to North Melbourne. And that team in 9th, I suppose Bulldogs there, but it's 30% as well as 2 games in hand between Bulldogs and Carlton. So there's just going to be very little excitement, I think, for the end of the year, because these games are just not going to have any impact.
Yeah, right now for me, the only one that I can see actually making a bit of a run, and it's going to have to be everything goes well for them, is Sydney.
Yeah.
And they're on a good start, obviously, with their players coming back, and we've talked about it in the review of last round, that Sydney are probably on the up. They're still sitting in 11th. They're still 2 games behind.
However, guess who they play this weekend?
They play
Bulldogs.
The Dogs.
The Swans are at home playing the Bulldogs. If they win this, then they could be 1 game behind the Bulldogs, and percentage would take a huge difference because the Bulldogs have been whacking teams, so they could go down to almost 125, and that's a huge difference. It's a huge difference in percentage.
I think, I'm just trying to have a look at it and see which team is the most likely to have a bit of a meltdown within the top 9 if we were to see this change.
I still think it's the Bulldogs.
I reckon is a big take because a lot of people are high on the Dogs, and for good reason. Their upside is fantastic. They
still have not beaten a team above them yet. And if they lose to the Swans, it's only going to show that maybe they're not that good.
Yeah.
This is the best version we've seen of the Dogs in ages, and they could very well be sitting out of the 8 again, and that could be a huge issue because aside from the Bulldogs, Gold Coast I'm still a huge fan in. They still got those 2 games against Essendon.
I was going to say, they've got the run to do it. I'm just very disappointed so far.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
No Whitfield this week. He got concussed.
Yep.
They have their bye this week, I believe.
Are Freo safe?
Freo, no, they're not safe because we've seen that they have really good patches and also really poor patches.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
mention. They play
mention.
St Kilda this week. Could be a very interesting game. Hawthorn, without Will Day, I'm still not fully confident in them. Adelaide won't drop out, I don't believe.
I think top 4, everyone in the top 4 right now won't leave the top 8 at this rate.
Yeah. So
I'm confident in saying that at least, even despite Adelaide being the same wins to all the way to 7. I think I don't know what their run looks like, but their percentage gives them a huge boost. We obviously know how talented their entire team is. It'll be interesting to see whether there's a team that drops in because I think we don't give Carlton too much credit, but I think for good reason. Sydney is just one. It's the only one that looks like they could make a run.
You can't say Port. They've got a really bad percentage and they just don't look at Essendon. Really bad.
Really
percentage.
Young, poor injury form. Melbourne,
they're just too far behind at this stage. Like they're
it's
3
the same
games
for
out.
everyone here. Yeah. Like you can say some positives for some, like the fact St Kilda gave such a fight, North getting a win. You can have some positives, but they're too far out now. They're too far out.
They're just playing for draft. Like
North isn't. North is playing to make sure these guys don't have pick 3.
Essendon and Melbourne are.
I know. Like it is. I think that Essendon season is a lot more positive than I think a lot of people give them credit for.
It's just weird to have such a big gap already because the last few years we've seen all the way from 6th down to 12th be like 1 or 2 games difference, and now we're seeing a huge gap.
Yeah,
just find it very interesting.
Yeah, it's nice. But that is what the ladder is looking like, and it would be nice to keep this updated. I'd like to see this more and more.
Yep.
Obviously, it's not as exciting as previous years, as we mentioned. Sydney seems to be the only one making a threat for that top 9, but we know there's going to be one really solid team that misses out this year, and God, if it's Gold Coast, I'm not going to be happy. I'm just going to be honest. It's not going to be great. We'll move on, however, to your favourite segment of all time.
Yeah.
We've got Behmy's Tribunal tasks.
Yeah.
What are the tasks at hand this week?
So there are a couple. There were lots of umpire contact this week. So there were lots of fines handed out for that. There were a couple free kicks paid as well for players getting in the way of umpires, because when they do the ball up, they have to run straight back and players get in the way, trip them up, whatever. There are lots of fines with that, which I found very interesting. Surely the players have learnt by now. And the reason it happens is because players wrestle. Players just hold on to each other. And at that stage, you can't separate. And I think you could argue more free kicks need to be paid, but at the same time, why are you holding on to each other? Doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
The two interesting ones that I saw, because the Sunday games have not been released yet. First one is Dan McStay tripping Wanganeen Miller. Straight up just hits his leg after making an attempt at a tackle. Live, I said this should be a suspension because...
That looks really weak for a suspension.
Is it?
I think so.
Why?
Because there's barely any contact.
He's whacked his leg, which is not making an attempt on the ball. It's not providing a duty of care to the player. They gave him a $1,000 fine, but I think he hasn't made an attempt to tackle. He has not actually gone to tackle him whatsoever. He's gone past him, Naz, very clearly. He's tripping over, and in an attempt to stop him, he's swiped at his legs purposefully.
Yeah, I get that.
Intentional, and that's very clearly a suspension. Anything intentional should be a suspension.
In my opinion, there's a very, very good case for him to make that it wasn't his intention. I think that Collingwood could argue pretty easily that his intention was to tackle and he just tripped up. I think there's a chance.
I think if you look at the replay slide, the small little box in the corner when it comes up again, he very clearly is too far behind him and just wants to stop him in his tracks. And the way he does that is by tapping his feet. I think that's the way that it's past making an attempt at a tackle.
Yeah, I guess so. I just think it's way too easy for Collingwood to argue that is like a really incidental.
I just found it very interesting that it's only a $1,000 fine. When you look at Marcus Windhager, who also got a $1,000 fine, basically pushed Nick Daicos in the stomach with an open hand. Ridiculous. And there was so much talk about the tag. And as soon as they paid this, 25 seconds into the game, I'm like, okay, they're going to pay every single free kick to Daicos. And he ended up getting 4. I was
going to say, in terms of frees against, I think Windhager ended up with 4.
I just thought all the talk about this was ridiculous.
It was a lot. I never expected this much chat about a tag.
It was brought up so much in the media.
In the game too. It kept being brung up.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Daicos was all right. I don't think he had his best game of the year by any means. I don't think he was good. Like, he had 30 touches, but
I think he did really well despite the tag. I think that in terms of best games, he's had much better games this year. But for a tag, he's done all right. He's done pretty well.
I think it affected him because you look at the way he used the ball. A lot of kicks inside 50 were direct turnovers. He wasn't hitting targets. I think there were a couple of throws he had as well that just weren't called. I don't think he was that good. Windhager didn't do anything himself, which is where he's been really good at this year, getting off the tag himself. But he was strictly limiting Daicos, and I think it was pretty even. Daicos kicking that goal late probably gives him the advantage, but I don't think the tag...
It definitely wasn't... He didn't completely ruin it. I think the tag did serve its purpose until 100%. The last 10 minutes of the game.
But you look at it, when he was tagging successfully, we were in the game. When he was able to get away, that's where the game broke over.
Yeah.
So Craig McRae saying...
It's up to how you interpret a win for Windhager in this sense. I think it's a great discussion to have.
He stopped Nick Daicos having his best game of the year, and that's a win in my books. Like, Nick did not have a good game.
I would look more outside of whether Daicos was effective and look more at how your team went with the tag. Because when you tag, often it means that your team is 18 v 17, and sometimes in the hopes that his tag makes it 17 v 17. But Windhager did that for about 3.5 quarters. It's just the last 10 minutes where Daicos got that goal, got a bit of separation. I think Daicos, despite the tag, had a fantastic game.
I don't think it was fantastic.
I know you disagree, but I think the fact he was able to put so much of an impact towards the game despite him having someone on him. And it was a pretty heavy tag. But that's just the way that tags go and the way that Ross had mentioned it. I think it's just insane how much discussion it brought.
You look at Craig McRae a couple of days ago when he was talking about oh yeah, if they put a tag to him, it probably won't be too good for them if they're losing to 70 while stacking punt. Doesn't really make them much better. Pretty dumb statement given we just tagged you, Nick Daicos, and almost beat you guys. Like,
Yeah.
I just think that's a dumb statement, and they're clearly wanting to get more free kicks out of him. They're having a proper sook, and they clearly were wrong because even when they got the free kicks, wasn't there. So maybe they paid the umpires. Who knows?
It always comes down to a conspiracy theory with you.
Always. Craig McRae got it wrong.
Basic wrap up of that part. Daicos is coming to the Saints. Your
No.
inside sources?
Tim Membry's coming back. No, I'm joking.
I love zero
Yeah.
access footy. I love spreading misinformation
Thanks.
over the internet. But we get to now have a look at a team that we had hinted at towards the review of last round. Carlton. Carlton are
They're shit.
They're in all sorts at the moment, and there's plenty to look at when it comes to Carlton. You can look at how they compared to this time last year. You can look at the big picture over the millennium so far. The fact that North still has had more wins than Carlton in this.
You guys have made more prelim finals than them, haven't you?
I think so. We made 2, 2014, 15.
They made 2023. That's all.
Yeah. It's just North better. But
yeah, well, say it's still
a
above
very
you guys.
surprising win in terms of North Melbourne taking this one. I think despite how banged up Carlton was and how North Melbourne, despite showing signs, they still had their usual North Melbourne standards. Carlton just completely froze up for 2 quarters, and that's what lost it eventually. Their big fight back in the last quarter and North's horrendous play in that fourth quarter, it wasn't enough. And that should not be happening for a team that's trying to fight for finals, a team that's coming off of, if we can go to I think the next slide shows that last season, no, this is just there. Sorry, I thought the next slide was going to be last season. They were in second place at this point, and now they sit well outside of the top 8. Here it is. They sit well outside the top 8. We talked about, even though they're currently sitting higher than Sydney, we don't think they've got a chance of making finals. Right? The perception of this team has completely changed, and it hasn't just been a now thing. It has been an all year thing. The signs have been showing since the very
Round
first
one.
game of the season, and it's just, where do we draw the blame? Is there any blame to be passed to one particular person? Because we had mentioned in a small glimpse that Voss is going to cop a lot of it. I think it'd be stupid of them to sack him off, because at the end of the day, he has brought them to a prelim before. We know that he and his team is capable of getting this far. But think outside of what this, or how their play has been. What does it mean for their future and for the players that they've got who are potentially on the leave? TDK has been a constant mention, not just on this podcast and on other podcasts that you are a part of, but in the entire AFL landscape. TDK has been one that has been linked to the Saints so heavily, and you wonder, Carlton have just not helped themselves out in any way at all this year. And there's been so many opportunities for them to avoid this. Speaking in the sense of games where they should have blown teams out, that West Coast game.
Yeah,
massive start. You're like, finally, they're showing signs, and then 5 goals for the rest of the game. That is just Carlton to a T this year.
This needs to be a year where they take 1 step back to take 2 steps forward. They still technically can make finals, but it's to a point where is it necessary? I think they need to look at it like a Sydney 2023 year, where they've just come off a really good year, middle out, and then they really invest into their team. TDK leaves, their pick probably ends up, let's say, pick 7. That means you get pick 8 from that as a result. I don't think it's good enough to get starter first round. I just don't think that happens anymore. You look at some of their trade bait that they could potentially use if they want to rebuild this list. You've got Mackay.
Retool
Sydney,
this list, I
correct.
reckon.
Yeah, retool is what I mean. Look at Mackay. He's going to be one that's on the chopping blocks. We've heard rumours of Sam Walsh. He could be one. There are a couple other players around. You've got Jagger Smith that's going to return.
And I'll get onto that point later, but I'll let you finish. Yeah.
There's just going to be a lot of questions that, is this going to be a retool where they start it this year, or do they still want to go all in, where maybe you go for some more experienced players? Because you look at their next 4, right? Put Adelaide away. not an easy game, even though Sydney just
Even
did
though
it.
Sydney beat them, but we've talked about Sydney.
Correct. Collingwood, probably not going to win that.
Probably not a
Brisbane,
win.
probably not going to win that. And then they got Melbourne, which is probably going to win. So that puts them really behind for the year. And
It's just not a favourable draw.
correct.
It's almost a dead even draw, which they cannot afford at this point
Yeah.
if they want to make finals.
So they needed to beat all of those 4 teams, and they weren't able to get done in 2 of them, being North Melbourne and GWS, if they wanted to make finals. And there's just no need for it, because even if they do win, they're not going to make an impact. Like, Cripps hasn't been that good this year. Walsh has continued to have injury issues. There's no point risking them getting any more injuries, similar to what West Coast did with Oscar Allen, to then set you back next year, because the focus should now be next year. If the coach is changed, I don't think enough changes outside of that. They're obviously going to get in Graham Wright, I believe, is the man.
I was going to say, that's the person I wanted to bring up. Graham Wright. He is known around footy circles for being one that can change the look of a football club. He's done it before. I think it was Collingwood was his most recent project that has set them up for their most recent amount of success. My thinking with this, however, is that I'm worried with his arrival, they're going to see it as, all right, we're starting a new book, completely new chapter of our club. I don't think that's the right idea of going about it. I think there are a lot of positives, because what we often forget about, it's the prelim is one that comes to so many people's mind. Their win against Geelong this year, that has been that is a massive outlier to all the games they've had so far this season. How did they do that? Right? They should not have come close to winning that game. So I'm very interested to see what the Carlton-Collingwood game looks like. I think it's going to go Collingwood's way, but Carlton definitely could make an impact in that game if everything goes well. But I think a lot of Carlton fans are getting back into the habit of, we're on the downfall, we need to reshape the way we do things. They have done that so many times. If they sack Voss this season, that's the 3rd sacking within 6 years. That's a lot of turnover for a team that has had the most amount of success they've seen in a good while with that prelim. And their fights at finals, like that, obviously that down period with Brendan Bolton was a very tough time. But I think they're overreacting. Maybe it's not Carlton. Maybe it's the AFL landscape is overreacting to the way that we're looking at this game in particular. So many people have said that Northern may be turning the corner. I hope it is the case, but they've shown signs of being a more consistent club. Maybe this loss isn't as bad as people think. Obviously, it hurts because the skills were so poor and you really wanted to win this game. But Jagger Smith is one you brought up before. He's one that comes in next season. They do have the injuries in Walsh and Macca that could potentially change things up, despite them not playing their best football as of recent. I think that a lot of what is happening right now and a lot of the noise is noise that is just there because of the way that the media landscape goes about these days. As soon as you lose unexpectedly, what's going on with this club? Does change need to be made? I don't think there needs to be much change made. I think if this continues next year, then you have a look at it. But this Graham Wright bloke who has shown so much change, I think he's got pieces to work with here. And I really, really believe Voss is Carlton's best coach this century.
Jesus.
There you go.
Jesus.
That is a fantastic slide. That may be your best slide change ever, producer Ethan. Oh, you are getting you know what? That real and raw dig I made the other week, I take it back. That is gold. That is great. But my main point, I think Carlton should stick it thick. I think they should stick through it and find out what made it work. Are they overreacting to some key pieces being out? And what inspires this team? What builds this team to play at the level they did 2 years ago? There's questions to be made and questions to be asked. I just think that Carlton shouldn't be reacting to it now. So I really hope that they do stick it thick with Michael Voss.
I just want to say a couple of things in terms of their future. You look at Jay Clark, he said something about a potential trade of Macca to Swans where Ollie Floreton would go to the Blues. Not the right trade at all. But I like the idea of Macca going to the Swans. I've made a 3-team trade that is very interesting.
Are you doing a trade?
I'm doing a trade. We've got the first Behmy's trade of this year.
Yeah, all right, sure. Behmy's trade.
We've gone from Behmy's Tribunal task to Behmy's trade tasks.
Just
So-
recycling the segment. All right, fair enough.
Harry Mackay goes to Sydney. Obviously, this isn't going to be final. There's going to be added picks, but as a basis of a trade, Harry Mackay to Sydney, Swans pick 8 to Port, and then Miles Bergman goes to Carlton. There's interest of Sydney getting a key forward. Port traded away their first round pick this year. They get one in return. And then Miles Bergman, who's got interest in going back to Victoria, he heads to Carlton. Sydney probably want to get another pick in the 20s or 30s to be able to match a bit on Max King, who Dylan Alexander said is one that could watch for an early first round pick. Swans get that key forward that they're looking for. That probably means they have the leeway to potentially move on
He's so quick with it.
from Logan. He's actually really good. From Logan McDonald, maybe, if he's not able to be fully fit.
Yep.
Build around McLean, Mackay, and Amati, or want 3 of those 4, let's say, because they clearly like those 3. Port get that first round pick that they can then build around a nucleus. Maybe you go for someone like Ludowick, who is a key forward or just a key position player that they need.
Definitely could use some key position players.
Sort of fits every single need
Yeah.
that I think. And I think that's a really even trade for every team there.
It addresses things for every team, that's for sure. We're going to move on to the teams that are seeing a bye this week. And if I can remember off the top of my head,
Collingwood,
There we go,
Brisbane,
beautiful.
Geelong, and
Not
GWS.
Collingwood, not
Oh,
Collingwood.
Essendon, sorry.
Essendon.
Yes.
So we'll start with.
Jesus, Shannon Neal looks like a ghost in that photo. What
oh
the
my
hell?
god, he is pasty
What the
white.
hell?
He's pasty white. He's more pasty than me. How's he done that?
Scary.
We'll start with Brisbane though.
Yeah.
Fantastic week to head into your break. They have not had a bye yet.
That's
and
ridiculous.
This is I know that obviously
No, they
for a lot of
must have.
teams
They must have had their bye because they played in gather. They didn't
they
play.
didn't because of
Yeah,
the
it got
fact that
rescheduled to round
they've
3.
rescheduled.
Yes. Yes.
So they have not had a break yet.
Mm.
This is they've been working hard all year round to this point, and here they are. Finally, they're getting their rest. Very well deserved. Beautiful game to do it on.
Yeah.
Big win last week. And what are the questions that you think are being asked of this team? Is Logan Morris going to be that reliable? He's had a great stretch against 2 good teams in GWS and Geelong, back-to-back fives.
He is the youngest key forward since Matthew Lloyd to kick
97,
5 goals in 2
yep,
games.
I heard that stat too. Look at us
So-
doing our research together.
Yeah.
That's so cute. Oh, I love that. But
Do you want me to leave?
no, what do you mean? I'm complimenting us. We did well with our research this
Us.
week. I knew the fact too. I said that it was in 97. I knew that it was a thing. There's a fantastic little fact there. And Logan Morris goes to show that despite Danaher being gone, Brisbane seemed to have found another one.
They clearly need the 3 tall forwards. Sam Day came in, allowed Hipwood to be a bit more free, allowed Morris to get out the back a
And
couple
I don't even think
times.
Day had a fantastic
No,
game.
but it's more so just having another option.
It's spacing,
right?
yeah.
It allows Rayner to not be key forward,
Yeah.
which he showed he is not.
He's more effective as a roaming kind of forward.
Yep. So you look at their midfield, we know how good it is. You look at their back line, still going to be questions asked because Geelong were very inaccurate. If they're not, does it change the way of the game? Very possibly. Still want to see Tom Dodie brought in. Does Darcy Gardiner get in because he was a laid out this week? Only questions are on the tools because can you last with Day, Hipwood and Morris, and can you last with I'm forgetting
No
Harris
Jack Payne,
and-
but
yeah,
Harris Andrews, Leicester.
Gardner and Dodie. That's the only questions for them.
Harris, to be fair, Harris Andrews' game against
Fantastic.
Geelong was
Yeah.
probably one of his best of the year.
Impenetrable.
Yeah, it was really good. I think we'll leave it there for the moment
Yeah.
because I do want to talk about Geelong because now that really answers the question. Was this just a one-off before their bye?
Well, we've seen it a couple of times this year already.
We have, but at the same time, their clear best is they
Fantastic.
beat Collingwood at their best. That's their best. We know that they can win a premiership this
Yeah.
season. I think it's clear to say. But the problems came from the poor kicking, which is just very un-Geelong-like, which makes me lean more towards the idea that this was a one-off game, despite it happening a couple of times. I think, yeah, the likes, and I mentioned before, Myers just was so poor with his kicking, which is very unlike him. Them having to chuck Dangerfield into the midfield to really get a spice up and see whether they could maybe find a mismatch somewhere that they didn't expect and inject some life into that midfield. But Shannon Neal is becoming more reliable, but still isn't that guy just yet. Jez is having a fantastic season, so he's one they're always going to be reliant on. I look towards who are the ones that were a bit quiet in this game? Who are the ones that who weren't as impactful as they
Ollie
usually are?
Henry's one.
Ollie Henry, but he came in as the sub.
Oh, yeah, true.
Lawson Humphreys, funny enough, he's in the picture.
He-
is one that I thought of. I think he had a
defensively just isn't like when he has to go on something like Zach Bailey, he just you see the fact that he's not a proper defender.
I had been thinking so much about the matchups of Brisbane's backline to Geelong's forward line in the review of that game that I never thought that it would be the Brisbane forward line getting over the Geelong backline. I really didn't see it happening. The likes of Tom Stewart in the back line, the strength that they have back there, and those little guys like Humphreys. Myers gets more around the ground, so he helps out. Connor O'Sullivan, he actually had a decent game, but those quieter guys were the ones that confused me the most. And I think that's where they need those ones to step up a little bit, especially in those big games and when finals comes around. They need to play their role as efficiently as they have in their best games in order to see themselves come out really successful this season.
The one thing I want to see is more defensive solidity, right? We've seen against GWS allowing 100 points, against the Bulldogs allowing 114 points, where they could have easily scored almost 150 if they kicked accurately. Yeah. We've seen games where they're just not able to slow the opposition team down, allow them lots of chances out the back, which we saw a lot, especially against Brisbane. Can they be able to be this free and score so freely without allowing the opposition to? Because you look at the talent down there, it is there, right? Sullivan, De Koning, Henry, Stewart, Guthrie. There's a heap of talent down there. And I think it's a bit surprising from a Geelong team that is known to be a very good defensive side. Have we seen this finally end up sort of this new offensive ball movement hurting their defense? Yeah. It's what I want to see more improvement from.
I'm surprised how many times we've seen them lose this year at GMHBA. That's another thing I wanted to quickly bring up. But outside of that, I think their midfield woes this week was just a one-off. We've seen them play so well this year. And their forwards really weren't too much of a problem. I'd say it was more the delivery. The delivery inside 50 was just quite poor. And the times that they did manage to pull it off, they scored. They kicked goals from it. But that's all we'll go with Geelong there. We'll go to Essendon now. And I actually think their season is turning more positive despite the losses. Zach Merritt is one that you always go to, I think, to really sum up this team's season in that started off really wanting to work hard, but now that it seems they're putting the brakes on a little bit. This team now seems to be settling into, all right, season's not looking the way we wanted it to go, but looking towards next year, lots of positives. I mean, just going to the draft. The draft is going to be great for them right now.
Too early for 100%.
Yeah, the draft is looking really good for them right now. And you can also say that injuries have really prevented them from seeing their best all season. But we've also seen the likes of Angus Clark go into the side and show some great sign. Archer May, there's some really good signs from the young guys. Obviously not enough to make it so that they're playing consistently good football, but that's just what you kind of have to do when you're forced into these situations. You have to try and make things up as time flies by. So I actually like their path. I really like how they're going into the bye despite the losses. And sure, some of it may be out of their control with the fact that Melbourne's playing so poorly, but that also comes back to great off-season training. I think it's one of the rare seasons where their off-season, the previous off-season is looking really good for them. The Nate Caddy, Isaac Kako pickups, all of that stuff, seeing Nate Caddy grow this season. There's so many things to look forward to, I think, for Essendon.
It is now time to move on. It is now time to move on to what they're going to do in the off-season. Yeah. They know that they're not going to be making finals. They know that they've just got to hope them and Melbourne both lose to potentially have picks 5 and 4 and 5, 5 and 6, whatever it is. Sets them up really nicely. Again, we've seen a lot of injuries with their key tools, but I still don't think even with their injuries, they're good enough. Right? You surround Reid with Ben Mackay. I mean, come on, really? Is that going to be where you're going to win your flag? No.
I don't think so.
Ridley, he just hasn't shown to be good enough to stay healthy.
Injury, yeah. I was going to say, it's out of his control,
this isn't a 2-year thing. This is a 4-year thing where he's continued to have soft tissue injuries. It's going to be an issue in its future. Yeah. No doubt. Like, this is just what happens.
It's awful.
So you look at that, then you look at their forward line. It is Peter Wright and it is Nate Caddy, but Kyle Langford has continued to show his body's kind of starting to fail him. He has now on the back end of his career. Nate Caddy, who can you surround him with? I mentioned for Port Adelaide, could they go for Little Ike? Essendon are going to be one that would target him as well, because imagine surrounding those two together, the fight and the energy those two would bring would be awesome. The issue is there's still a lot of concerns with their drafting, because it's not just that they've drafted talent and they haven't been good. They haven't developed them. Sardis, Hobbs, all them. Like, just because you've got those draft picks doesn't mean it's going to work.
Yeah.
Who are you going to get outside of the draft is the real concern.
Yeah. We'll move on to GWS now. Definitely a positive way of going into the bye round for sure. Coming off of 2 fantastic wins.
Yeah.
But the question is just, where is the consistency, I reckon? Where are they going to look to for guys they always know they're going to show up? Callaghan is one that I'm always interested in because now they've invested a lot into him. Although it is starting to become the new norm for the way that the salary cap works this year. GWS need to rely on those guys consistently showing up. Like you mentioned, they're not going to have Whitfield. Well, they've got the bye, so I mean, maybe he comes back a bit early. Maybe he actually doesn't miss a game. But at the same time, GWS don't feel like a real contender just yet. And maybe it's because of their flip-flop way of playing, the way that games just haven't gone their way sometimes. I think this needs to be a stretch where they show us, all right, these teams that we should be smashing, we're smashing them. We're playing really consistent. They need to find their form now.
Like that.
And
that
these
Richmond
last 2 games,
that Richmond game, yep.
That's one of those ones where you go, how the hell are you nearly losing this? Those last 2 are a great stepping stone.
Yeah.
Fantastic stepping stone. I don't know who they play right out of the
just
bye.
getting that up now.
Yeah, I don't know who they play out of their bye, but whoever they play against, they need to really make sure they continue that same form.
They've got West Coast over there in their first game.
If this is even close, then there's a genuine problem, and I could almost write them out for grand final contention.
Because if they do end up losing to West Coast, they've got Geelong next, which if you lose those 2, season done.
Yeah.
Essendon, winnable. Sydney, Derby,
winnable.
We don't know what happens there.
It is winnable.
Bulldogs, winnable. Then they've got North, Gold Coast, and St Kilda to finish the year.
2 or 3 to finish.
It depends how they start coming out the bye.
Yep. And they've got to show the same form. I think it's just be consistent. That is the message after the bye. We're going to move on to the next thing, though. We'll make it quick because I do want to get stuck into this. This could be really fun. We're going to do a bit of Would You Rather. We did it the other week, and this is an awful Photoshop job. Is that the same photo you used for Macca's Man of the Week? I'm almost certain it is.
Yeah,
the Behm photo doesn't even look like
lazy.
Behm.
Is that a true footy thumbnail? I knew
Just
it.
Blatant
It's
stealing.
true. It's
Well done,
him and
producer.
Druzy, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
it is.
true. Yeah.
Just blatant
It's true.
stealing.
Yeah, I knew
Blatant
it.
stealing. That's
I'm
disgusting. mate.
goated.
All right. I'm going to start this week.
Okay.
I think you started last time, so I'm going to do it.
Mm.
Gold Coast's future.
Yep.
Or the Western Bulldogs' future.
Gold Coast. I think
Go
it's pretty
Gold
simple.
Coast. You reckon it's pretty simple?
Bulldogs have a lot more experienced players that are still carrying them. Whereas you look at the Suns, it's more so Collins, more so 30 Wits and Miller. That's sort of limiting it to those players.
But
that
you've got your Miller. Sorry, your
Raul,
Anderson, Raul,
King,
Flanders, all those guys.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not Flanders in the future. We don't know. But next
He's
one.
coming to the Saints.
He's always to the Saints. I forgot.
Yeah.
Right now, would you have Charlie Curnow or Nick Larkey?
Ooh. I might have to ask you the same question. Because
No.
Who would you rather?
No, this is not.
Nick Larkey or Ben King?
Oh, I hate you. That's one of your questions, isn't it?
Yep.
God damn it.
I'd rather Charlie Curnow.
You'd rather Charlie. Okay.
Yeah. Who would you rather? Larkey or King?
King, because he's younger, right? And he's showing a bit more signs of being the one.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a really good one. That's better than mine, I reckon, because Charlie Curnow has the idea that his best is Coleman medal worthy, but his injury form could maybe question it. Ben King is almost in a similar.
Yep.
Ben King's now starting to see more inside 50 targets, though. And sure, it's giving him a chance at the Coleman, but I think if Curnow, I'd even say if Larkey was put in there, he'd make the most of it more than I'm actually leaning towards Larkey.
Okay.
I think as an individual, I think Larkey, maybe his form right now, no. If you had recency bias, I'd say you'd maybe have a better chance of saying King, but I think Larkey. I'm gonna stick with my boy and say Larkey.
Fair enough.
All right, let me go my last one because I think you would really like this. Kane Corns or Sam McClure?
This isn't even a contest.
Really?
Yeah, Kane Corns wipes the floor.
I thought your hatred of Kane
let me
would've
down.
just-
I don't hate Kane at all.
Really?
No, I fucking love the bloke. I wouldn't say he's needed because he's sort of also what's wrong with the media, but like
That's kind of where
he's
I thought
entertainment.
I guess so. Like,
And
okay,
Sam McClure, you like compared him to the bottom of the barrel.
What are you talking about? He had the greatest line in media history of "They're not going to pick him." That's the best line ever.
Carlton are flag favourites. I'll do you one better.
No, that's awful.
That's my point.
But no one knows about it.
Everyone knows about it.
No,
It's just been brought up.
Sam McClure's is so much more recognisable. 100%. All right, I disagree with you.
It was both. Sam McClure also said Carlton are flag favourites at the start of the year.
I disagree with you with that one.
Okay. Well, I said my like your banking one.
Mm-hmm.
Darcy Moore or Aaliyah?
Darcy Moore.
Okay. I think
Sorry for not much explanation, but
that's fair.
I guess he's got the proof in the fact that he's captained a premiership side. He is a very impactful player.
Yep.
He's basically what I guess captains the back line, really. That's his role, that's his thing. And sure, he's got the pieces to make that happen, but I mean, he himself is the main piece conducting it all. So
LDU or Harry Sheasel?
oh, don't make me pick between the two.
You're gonna make me very disappointed here.
Sheasel.
Good boy.
Watch yourself. I'm going Sheasel purely because I think he's more consistent. I've seen maybe one or two bad games from Sheasel. And then LDU, he had a fantastic game against Carlton, and that's why I love him. But too often he'll have games where it's like he tries to take on too many people at once. I think the games where he plays well is where he has a path and he absolutely takes it.
Yep.
There's some games where he takes a path and then second guesses it and tries to move an extra way. And it's like, he's doing a little bit too much. Sheasel, I've never really seen him try to do that. He is so poised for how young the bloke is. He is just a fantastic player, but I love them both. So it's a win-win. You can't go wrong with either pick.
Matthew Lloyd or Jack Rewalt all time?
Matthew Lloyd. I
Yeah.
feel like that's not too hard. But he's a 100 goal kicker, right? Multiple time 100 goal kicker.
I wasn't a fan back then, so I got no idea. You should know this.
Multiple time 100 goal kicker. Jack
Couldn't tell
Rewalt's
you.
a fantastic bloke, a great analyst,
Isn't
too,
he a
great commentator.
three-time Coleman medalist? if
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
Matthew
mistaken?
Lloyd has won a few
Won
Coleman
three
medals in
flags.
his time
Won
too.
3 flags.
I guess you could say
Won
that.
3 flags.
Matthew Lloyd nearly was part of an Invincible flag. He's part of an Essendon flag.
That is really impressive. At the same time, Jack Rewalt won 3 with Richmond, who at the time were
Yeah, that
just
is
as
another
bad.
point. Yeah. I'd still go Matthew Lloyd though.
Okay.
I think they're both very smart blokes too.
One more. Luke Bruce or Cyril Rioli?
Cyril, because I think he's just more exciting.
Okay.
He's
Fair.
a lot of fun to watch.
Fair.
That's not to say that Luke Bruce is a bad player. I think he's just sorry, I've seen all the comments.
We
yeah, I think
we had
Cyril
this
Rioli is
argument.
just
We had this argument in class one time, and I was saying that Luke Bruce, greater all time, Cyril Rioli, the better player.
fair. I'm okay with that prediction.
Okay.
I'm okay with that guess. What, you wanted an argument?
No.
No, I agree with it. Yeah,
Good.
Sucked in, mate.
I'm almost right.
We're going to move to our final segment where we preview the next round coming up. We're going to start off with Port Adelaide versus Carlton. This is probably one of the only exciting games. One of two, I think, this week. It's looking a bit rough in terms of games this week. But Port versus Carlton, probably two of the most struggling sides in the comp at the moment outside of the bottom two. Surprisingly, Port are the betting favourites for this game. I thought it'd be Carlton because of one, ladder position, two, both coming off pretty similar situations. Maybe you could argue that because Sydney were looking better, that their 16 point or 14 point loss didn't look or isn't as bad as people think it is. But I'm surprised they are the favourites. And then also, this is just their absolute last chance, really, for both sides. If they want to make finals, this is their last chance to do it. If they lose this game, it's done. And then for Carlton's side of things, to gain the faith back, this needs to be a win.
Yeah,
This
agreed.
is the start of his redemption tour per se. And a 4-quarter effort would be nice.
For once.
Yeah, instead of awful football for 2, a decent quarter and a quarter to try and make all of it up like they did against North. Do you have any additions to that one?
If I were to go for a draw this week, it'd be this game. But
You've picked a lot of draws. I'm not
have.
taking it this week.
I'll go Blues. I'm just more confident in them having a sort of reverse fixture of what they did last week. So I think what we saw in the last quarter is more like what we would see compared to what the Power would show. So
They're going to need an almighty belt up the butt to try and get themselves some good form this week.
I'll go Blues by 25, but there's no confidence in the pick
neither.
at all.
It is at Adelaide Oval, but I'm still picking Carlton. I think Carlton too.
Yeah.
Port just seemed lost at sea in like no man's land for me. And it's almost in the same vein as Sydney, where they're so reliant on Butters, Rosie, and Horne-Francis within the midfield. And Horne-Francis, he had what looked like to be a poor, ineffective game on against Sydney. So it could be a reason as to why they lose this one. We look to Sydney versus the Dogs. I think this actually could be the game of the round.
Yes.
It's fantastic timing for a really big test with this one.
Yeah.
This will really decide whether the Swans are finals bound. Obviously, it'll help them in terms of ladder positioning, but in the sense that this is one of the teams that have really ridden off these lower teams. So Bulldogs will be expected to win this game, I'd imagine. But will they finally be able to unlock... Will Dean Cox really be able to find that moment to unlock everything? Finally, everything's in place that we can play our game plan effectively and get back to our winning ways like we did last year.
I'm really excited for this game. You look at some of the Swans' issues, and key back is one. Sam Darcy, lots of players can take up to 2 weeks to get back to full fitness and get into game shape. He could break this game apart. However, I see the Swans winning. I just don't trust the Dogs yet, and I think their backline against this Swans team that has Goulden, Heaney, Warner. We saw how good Heaney was on the weekend. I'm really got a lot of confidence back in the Swans now. Papley, I think, could be unstoppable on this week.
There's a chance.
I'm really confident in the Swans.
Yeah,
I think it's a thriller game. I'll go Swans by 9 because we've seen some really good games between these two teams. I'm really confident in the Swans this week.
I'm going to swing it this way and say the Dogs are going to take this one. I think they could really use someone. I don't know if Treloar's playing because I know he's had a lot of injury concerns, but this could be a game where if he stays healthy for the entire thing, he'd be fantastic to help them out. Just another cog for them to really get their best football spinning. And you talk about matchups, right? I think Rory Lobb has been fantastic. And so with the fact that they don't seem to have too many key threats outside of maybe Papley inside the forward line, Lobb has been such a great intercept marker this season and has been such a revelation for their backline that I think that he could really do some damage in this one and stop them from getting on the scoreboard. And then we know how well the rest of the team has been playing. Ed Richards, Bailey Dale, the Bont coming off a fantastic game. English doing really, really well. So we know he, when given the opportunity, can step up. There's so many pieces that I think the Dogs, even if one of them, like Treloar in this case, isn't able to play up to their standard, there's too many backups. There's too many people. Davidson, I nearly gave him a vote in Macca's Man of the Week. He's another one I nearly forgot.
Yeah.
So many cogs, so many things that could work in their favour that I think maybe it does come down to the fact that Swans could just burst out with excitement here, but I think the Dogs take this one. And unfortunately, I think confidently with like 30 points.
No Treloar, though.
No Treloar confirmed?
Confirmed.
Okay.
Could be out for the year, so not good for them.
Yeah, that's very not good. But they've got so many cogs.
Gold Coast, Melbourne, make or break it game for them. Like, you just have to win this game if you
have to win.
Up there, though, I very much see them winning this. I think Melbourne, given they did have a week rest, is good. However, I think Gold Coast still have the versatility in their team. I think Melbourne could just very well struggle to stay with them.
Demma mentioned at the end of last year, this team needs to grow up.
Yep.
This is their sign of growth. This needs to be a game where they just take it from go to woe.
Yep.
Don't give Melbourne even a sniff of winning this one. But on Melbourne's side, they need their risers to lift.
Yeah.
The game they beat Freo, I think it was the one they beat Freo, Cozzy lifted. I think Melksham in the game against Brisbane, he was the one that lifted. And Fritsch even did pretty well in that game too. Those guys, those three that I mentioned, need to show signs of life in this one, or it's going to be Gold Coast. It's going to be Gold Coast, and pretty convincingly. But my other question is, would a win benefit or hurt them more?
Who? Melbourne?
Melbourne.
I don't think it really matters. They don't have their pick, so losing doesn't help, but they're not going to be good enough to make finals, so it doesn't affect anything.
Yeah, fair enough.
Hawks, Roos,
Wait,
your boys.
Did we tip? What did I tip?
You just said Suns by a fair bit. You didn't say exactly.
I'm going to say Suns by 40.
Ain't no way I did the exact same thing.
That's
crazy.
All right, let's go Hawks North.
Really interesting game.
Surprisingly interesting.
Really interesting game.
Do I don't want to have faith. I don't want to have faith, man.
It is
this.
in Tassie. It is in Tassie.
And it's off a bye as well for Hawthorn.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much. I don't want to have faith in this team. I enjoyed the years of being awful because I knew what to expect.
Am I getting the shaking out?
No. Don't get the shaking out this week, please. I think it is going to go Hawthorn's way. But I've just mentioned here players like Ginnivan and Watson should have a field day with this one. Pink has shown great signs as a key defender as of late.
Yes.
Alongside Comben, who hasn't been as exciting.
And Logue.
And Logue has been showing the reasons why we tried to get him from Freo. But likes of Ginnivan and Watson, I think this is their game to go. While we do have some backline players or backmen who are playing above their usual standard, I think there's still a chance that they can get romped here.
Does Sicily come back is my concern because
I hope he does. He'd probably suck.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If he comes back, how does he upset the way Hawthorn were playing? I'm very tempted to go Rhys here.
If they do, they finally get out of the bottom four, I reckon. I think
tempted.
they confirmed get out of the bottom four. If it's not this round, at some other point in the year, if they win this one, yeah, they're out of the bottom four. And God, that'd feel so good.
Technically, if you go above St Kilda, you're not out of the bottom four.
Yeah,
so
I
Melbourne would
know.
also
But
need
if
to
we
win.
win another one, yep.
Yeah. I'll stick with Hawthorn, but very, very close to tipping Ruse.
I'm tipping Hawthorn by 50, just so I don't have hope.
Jesus.
Not too much attention for the next one. Collingwood, West Coast. It's pretty obvious to see where this one
Yep.
should go.
Yep.
Just play the young blokes if you're West Coast. Tom
Pretty
McCarthy,
much.
I believe, was one that did really, really well.
Yeah.
See whether he can back it up again.
Let's see what they do coming off the bye. There's no Allen, no Waterman, so let's just see what comes out.
I think it's going to be a big Collingwood win. I'd say 80.
Yeah, fair enough.
Richmond v Adelaide.
Danger game. I'm calling it right now.
And at the MCG, they've shown signs of the games where they've won unexpectedly have been those games where they fight till the very end. They can still get dominated in terms of possession count and fantasy score, whatever you want to kind of judge teams off of. It's like last week where they lost by 80, just dogs, players all at the top, Richmond all in the middle and the bottom. Richmond, however, have that grittiness. I keep coming back to it, and it comes, I guess, a little bit to vibe, but when they just put their head down and almost force the football inside their 50, it gives them just opportunities, and they realize we've got nothing to lose here. That's how they've won their games this year. We've got nothing to lose. People didn't think we were going to win a game this year. That's the kind of thought they need to have going into this one against Adelaide. But Adelaide, for me, it just comes down to don't give them a shred of hope. And maybe even if the game gets out of hand, find out where Rankin fits the best because he's had some poor efficiency this season, or at least as of recent. So it'd be nice to see whether he can find himself a position that works really well for him.
Jaden Chalk could be back. Sam Lawler could be back. So we could see some real benefits to this Richmond team.
Yeah, nice.
If Adelaide lose this, they might miss the 8. Hot take, but really need to win this game.
Absolutely. Well, surprisingly enough, a few teams have lost to Richmond this year. Gold Coast is one you think of that's trying to make it. So they wouldn't want to join that list. They wouldn't want to join that list. I'm going to say Adelaide by 50.
Yeah, I'm not going to go as confident. I think it's going to be a close game. We'll go Crows by 7. I think they really push them.
They are keen to do it sometimes. Final one, Freo over St Kilda. I'll hand the mic to you.
Is it too ridiculous to go Freo by 50?
You know what? No,
I really want to.
I don't think so.
It's not going to.
If they play the way if Saints play the way they did against Collingwood, no, that won't happen. But their worst, definitely. You think about the most recent trip down to Perth. I don't think you want to bring that one up again.
Also, we're not going to get anyone back. Fremantle, I'll check if they get anyone back, but I don't think so. Like, it could be really bad.
I think
could very well
I don't
be
think it's
really
going to get out of hand, but I think it could be a 40-point win to Freo.
Jager O'Meara could be back. Brandon Walker, Michael Walters is probably going to be back. Yeah, Michael Walters kicks 3 on return. Confirmed.
I'm going Freo by 40.
I'll go Freo by 22. Similar sort of game.
To the Collingwood one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, that is what we have got for Zero Access Footy, episode number 18. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on all of these platforms that you're seeing flash quickly. Oh my goodness. Don't ignore that one. Did you miss it?
Yep, I missed it.
Do it again. Do it again. Show it. Oh my God, this is follow us on all the platforms. Follow us there, and there you go. I bet you feel
I did
good
tell
about
him
that
to do that. So.
Yeah, nice one. That was fantastic. Well done. But that is. Thank you for watching Zero Access Footy once again. We'll hope to see you all next week. Another fantastic episode. Thank you again. See you soon. Bye. Bye.